Welcome to the Something Good podcast, hosted by Renee Mueller, powered by Verly. This is where we interview top business professionals, industry insiders, operational managers, and thought leaders from around the nation, diving into hot current topics to help you experience something good.
Today we have Mr. Casey Belitz, who is the COO for the NCF. That's kind of hard to say. You gotta remember the alphabet there.
Lots of acronyms.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about this fairly new position, I guess, over the last, has it been a year?
Almost 3 years.
Gosh,
3 years here in a couple weeks.
3
Yeah,
years.
it's amazing.
It does not seem like that.
I know.
I don't know where time
I know.
Honestly, this last year has been a blur to me. So 3 years. It's
last
not
2 years
surprising.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it has certainly been the adventure that I assumed it would be. Doing a lot of traveling around the state of Nebraska, spending time in. Well, I guess I don't know. I should count how many small towns I've been in. I asked if you knew where you were today, so yeah. Yeah, it is hard to keep track, but I think we're okay. There's just so much good stuff going on, and a lot of different kinds of projects being undertaken. But there's no question that Greater Nebraska, as we call it, so the rural parts of the state, are turning a corner, I think. And it is fun to be a part of that in lots of places where people have just decided they want a different future for their hometown than maybe they saw in front of them 20 years ago or 10 years ago. And that it really is starting to happen. And it's fun when you can have conversations about things that are reality as opposed to what we hope will happen at some point in the future, hypothetically.
Agreed. Yeah. And so this Nebraska Community Foundation, how long has that been in existence?
NCF is, just past 26 years old now, so pretty new organization. Started out of the rural development efforts from state government, but is not part of government. We're a private foundation, a public foundation, but a 501c3, and have a presence now in 270 plus communities across the state. From a community-based perspective, Norfolk is the largest community, Norfolk, then Columbus, and then probably it goes down to McCook, I would imagine.
Really?
So all of the small towns in Nebraska. Now we have other types of funds in Omaha, Lincoln, and other places, but in terms of our community presence, that gives you a flavor for where our network is. 83 counties. We have representation.
Nebraska, so I guess the focus is probably more west than east.
Well, it's definitely border to border. I mean, literally from Decatur on the Missouri River to Sidney and Kimball and Lodgepole and all those folks out west. So it is truly around the state. Again, 82 counties, I think it is now. So almost all of them, just, little ones here and there that for whatever reason we don't have an affiliated fund in yet.
Right. Okay. So obviously you used to be a member. I'm sorry, you used to be the president of the chamber, not a member, and a member.
And a member.
Yes, exactly. So not only the founding member, but the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how you became involved in this organization, because it seems to me it really has gained momentum. And I haven't heard of it till maybe 4 years ago. So,
right.
So why is that, and how did that come to be for you?
Yeah. So personally, for me, my involvement began when NCF came to Columbus, and specifically came to TR Raimondo. And Jeff Yost is our CEO. He knew TR from wherever. And so they had a conversation about whether Columbus should have an affiliated fund. TR came to me at the chamber. And so I've been part of the local affiliated fund as a committee member since it was formed. 12 or 13 years, somewhere in that neighborhood now. Yeah. After that, through that association with NCF and the local affiliate, I joined the statewide board for Nebraska Community Foundation and served on the board for 8 years before I joined the staff now, again, almost 3 years ago.
Okay. So the local branch that you're speaking of is the Columbus Future Fund.
Yep. The Columbus Area Future Fund is, so what we call those are affiliated funds. We're all part of one legal entity, but each community or county or whatever the region is has its own local affiliate.
Okay. And the funds raised are, so it's a nonprofit, 501c3. So how exactly are the funds raised and matched?
Well, the funds are raised by those local volunteers in whatever form they want to raise them. And that's really the heart of this Nebraska Community Foundation model is all those decisions are made locally. Each affiliated fund decides how they're going to raise the money, how they're going to grant the money, what they're going to do with the money, what they're going to do outside of the money. Because in all of these places, it isn't just about raising and granting money. It really is about convening and collaborating and partnering and being a part of the community conversation. And so those decisions are all made at that local level. So, raise the money here with the Columbus Area Future Fund. It is all pooled together in one investment pool for under NCF, which obviously translates into some better returns when you get to this kind of scope. And so, that's where it goes physically, I guess, but it is always accounted for separately. What Columbus raises, Columbus will have available to grant and et cetera. So all of that local control is really the basis for this model that NCF operates on.
Okay. So prior to you being involved with CAF, give us an example, I guess, of some of the projects that were done years ago and how that's changed, or if it's changed.
Well, the Columbus Area Future Fund, over those 12 years, again, I've been involved since it was formed. And so, that's been, as with most of these affiliated funds, it's been a journey of first raising the money. You got to have it before you can grant it. And so that was really the first 4, 5, 6 years was simply putting the resources in place from a fundraising perspective. So the annual sustaining memberships that go into the kind of the current account, and then raising money for the endowment, which means it's permanent money, never spent. You spend the returns, and that obviously got a big boost with the challenge grant from the Sherwood Foundation, and so that $250,000 challenge grant was matched by $500,000 raised locally, and that got our local endowment just over $1 million. So now we're will be in the neighborhood of about $50,000 every year forever that the Columbus Area Future Fund will have to give
legacy.
back.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So some of the projects that it has helped fund.
Right. So we've done, the Columbus Area Future Fund has supported things in each of the 3 high schools. STEM Academy at Columbus High, the STEAM Academy at SCOTUS, and then some STEM things, mechatronics program, et cetera, at Lakeview. So supported all 3 schools. The inclusive playground, which is at Lost Creek Elementary. So several of those physical projects. I think one of the things that the group ought to be most proud of, maybe, though, is not necessarily the capital projects, but, for instance, really gave the founding money to get Youth Leadership Columbus off the ground.
Really?
And so without that...
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Without that YLC, well, they might have been able to raise the money, but that gave them a 3-year head start so that they could begin the program and have the money in place to do it. Have supported early childhood efforts through Columbus Public Schools primarily, have supported the housing study because we all know housing is an issue, and so the foundation helped fund the study that was done 4 years ago now, probably almost 5. So it really is a wide variety, the K-9 unit with the Columbus Police Department.
Yeah, right.
And that's the point, I think, that's important to make about an unrestricted endowment like the Future Fund has, that those local leaders, not just today, but think about 30 years from now, how on earth would we know now what the needs are going to be?
Yep.
So having that unrestricted endowment gives you that flexible tool to do whatever needs to be done then, and the local leadership in place to make those decisions. And that's really the point of having that unrestricted endowment for your place that can fill whatever that need is. And you can see just in these first few years the variety of things that the Future Fund has been able to support.
Yeah, and how much that has grown. It's amazing to look at those numbers.
Yeah.
So not just in membership, but in the numbers that have been raised.
Right.
And that true lasting legacy, like you were saying. So is there a minimum as far as you mentioned those sustaining members in that membership? Is there a minimum with regard to that?
Right. And so there is not any minimum that someone can give to the Future Fund. Those annual sustainers give $100 every year to support kind of the operations and the work of the Future Fund. So that's what they do, and many of them have done it since day one, and that faithfulness has really made a difference. So that's what that is, just $100 a year. But we've certainly had gifts of $5, and we've had some significant gifts as part of those campaigns. So whatever someone feels like is a meaningful gift to them, certainly will be welcomed.
Okay. And so as far as projects, I know whomever can submit an application for what they deem necessary, or what they're thinking maybe needs to be supported, and then it's reviewed by the committees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, obviously, we see a variety of ideas that come forward. I think what's great about that local leadership model, though, is that they don't have to just wait for good ideas. This group is really going out and creating some of their own good ideas, and that's the job of those fund advisory committee members to really be good stewards of the money, certainly on one hand, but also to provide some vision and direction. And I think one just tremendous example of that is the welcoming grant idea contest that's just going to be kicking off.
Right.
What a great idea for this fund advisory committee to say, okay, in the environment that we're all in today in Greater Nebraska, what do we need? We need more people, right? There's no problems in Columbus. 1,000 more people wouldn't solve.
Yep.
So we need this to be a welcoming, or as we call it at NCF, a magnetic community, really drawing people in, but then also engaging them and keeping them here. We don't want them to come and say, I never really connected, I'm going to go.
Right.
So the Future Fund is offering up to $20,000 in grants to really anyone, whether it's an organization or a church or just a neighborhood that wants to do something to make this a more welcoming place. So it could be as simple, really, as having a neighborhood block party, and we need a little money to buy the hot dogs.
Right.
And it could also be something pretty complex, where we're going to set up a new organization and somehow reach out to newcomers and connect them with someone in the community, whatever that might be.
Maybe those funds get recycled.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Absolutely. And so that shows the kind of initiative that really NCF hopes these volunteers will take all across the state to come up with the idea that matters in their place, and not wait for someone else to come to them with a grant application, but really to go out and make it happen.
Right. Do you think, and maybe you can't answer this, Casey, but do you think that those grant funds would be most beneficial being used towards something like, say, how to figure out a housing solution, or a solution to something that really is more pressing in the community?
Right. Well, I mean, certainly those urgent needs, and housing is certainly one, but I think also you look at maybe things that aren't as obvious, like do people of diverse backgrounds feel welcome here?
Yep.
Because we all know that's where a lot of the growth in Nebraska is coming from. So are we a welcoming place in that way? And what might we do? And this is purely hypothetical and purely just my idea off the top of my head here, but what might we use some of those grant monies for, to do some sort of event during Columbus Days that's, maybe we bring multicultural food to Frankfurt Square, whatever.
Yep.
So, creating those kind of opportunities for us to come together as one community, that to me is something that could be striking in terms of really, as you said, an urgent need, because, our population is becoming more diverse, whether we want to or not. Right now, today, it's not happening in 10 years.
Agreed.
So it's an urgent need that really can make a difference in terms of this being a welcoming place. So it is those kind of ideas.
Right.
But the beauty of the way the Future Fund has approached this is it can be any idea, and that's so awesome. I just cannot wait to see.
I can't either. That's what I'm excited
what we're going to get back. Yeah.
So the demographic has definitely changed. We had 32%, just under 32% of the sales in this company were Hispanic, Spanish-speaking individuals for 2021, which is incredible.
Yes.
So we've talked about, I think, through the chamber and their plan for the future, 2022, whatever that might be, looking at what do we need for downtown, what do we need for gaining some of the I would say younger, more diverse population, getting them involved in the community. How do we get, what do they want? How do they congregate and so forth? So it will be really interesting to see what comes from that. So I understand those will be released sometime in the near future. Is that correct?
I think the applications will start being or will be available on the Future Fund's website. In fact, if they're not already, it will be any day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you'll have an app, sounds
Yep.
like.
So it's just a really brief application to tell the Future Fund, what are you thinking about doing with the money? How much do you need? Okay. Is it sustainable? You know, those kind of questions, but really brief. It's not going to be anything complex. And then the Future Fund committee will review those and get the money into people's hands as quick as they can. And I think the awesome piece of this is not just going to be what happens, but what we learn.
Yes,
you know, it's such
agreed.
a great experiment. This worked, that didn't. Let's tweak this. Let's do that better.
Yep.
Columbus is going to learn from that. And then the cool part of the NCF network is the entire state has the opportunity to learn from that.
Yeah.
Because this will be shared at training events and regional meetings and those other things. And the NCF board has a people attraction committee too. And they're very excited to see what's learned in Columbus as a result of this experiment.
Though, are they? The people attraction board?
No, that and again, that's the idea. We want to learn from whether it's organizations or people, individuals in Columbus. What are they going to come up with? We haven't even dreamed of yet.
Yeah, it'll be real interesting to see how many submit their application and what the ideas are.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Really
very exciting. So the dedeadline for that is March 1. Is that right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we've got about 60 days for submissions.
Yeah, plenty of time to think about something, and it'll really be fun.
Yeah, not bad. So I want to touch just a little bit on the housing issue because obviously that's our forte. So tell me a little bit about some of the projects that you've been involved in, or what you're seeing or hearing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like maybe you guys do have some talk as an organization as far as how you might be able to help or some input on that. So
yeah, I mean, obviously housing is one of the universal challenges in rural Nebraska today. There's no mystery about that. Very few places that have would claim they've kind of solved it. But there are places where they really have made progress. Stewart, Nebraska comes to mind, small town, 400, 500 people. But they've done some really extraordinary stuff in housing in terms particularly of the rehab. They've really fixed up that housing stock. And so there have definitely been things to learn from that. Interestingly, there have been both good and bad to learn from that. There's some things, I was just talking with that community 2 weeks ago. There's some things they've learned that they, maybe were unintended consequences where because they've done such a good job as a community, they have really raised the price point of housing in Stewart.
Isn't that incredible? Well, we just did the same thing in Madison. I had several people in the beginning when we opened up the 2 new subdivisions there say, there's no way you'll get that price for those houses. Of course, we've had the level of inflation we've had everywhere, which, you see there too. But it really is incredible to see. And then you have more sales because of it. And some people building, custom homes that, you would not have seen that amount previously. So it's pretty incredible to see that, We now have employers like Tyson there matching funds as far as closing costs for some of those buyers.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of those small communities, Ord is another one. My mom's family is from Greeley. I cannot believe how much construction they have in Ord and the prices. It's such a small community, so, and you're involved in most of these areas. Is that right?
Well, those two, certainly. And what would it be? Actually, we're probably at the point now where NCF has a community presence in just over half of all of the communities in Nebraska, because it's about 270. There's 535 towns. So yeah, just over half. And we are seeing, the rehab thing get used a lot, seeing other approaches as well, a wide variety depending on the specific environment or circumstances in a place. I think there's probably 2 general things there. Number one, it is clear in a lot of places anyway, almost every place, that it's going to take a combination of philanthropic, public, and private involvement, whether that's money or connection or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's going to take all 3 of those to make what you can build today affordable for the people that can buy it, or even just to make it happen, period.
Right.
At any price point. So that's one. And then number 2, we're definitely seeing a growing interest in using charitable money to put someone in place in a community to do this as a profession.
Yeah.
And And, I don't think that's surprising. It's the same thing that Columbus did with the workforce development position 15 years ago. It's the same thing that, well, you mentioned Ord, they did with economic development. Same thing Boone County and Albion did, putting someone in a position to develop early childhood development, and now they have Boone Beginnings. So, just having that person focus on the work makes a difference, and we're starting to see a real trend toward that. And we have Nebraska Community Foundation did some legal work, or had some done last year, and then again this year to look at how charitable money can be used in housing. And so we now have a pretty good feel of that, and also good relationships across the state with those community level folks, but then also with NIFA and Midwest Housing Development Fund and others who are in that space. And so we're going to convene some pretty interesting conversations, I think, in the first half of next year.
That's what I was getting at earlier. Yeah, I'm very interested to hear more about that, obviously. So, yeah, how can we make a difference and, be philanthropic, like you said, with regard to housing? It's I guess yet to be known.
Right. And it isn't something that NCF has ever done for several reasons, but primarily probably because you don't think of housing, which is a for-profit activity, as a space where you could use charitable money, because obviously that's the point of charitable money. You can't benefit one company, one person, whatever. It's charitable. So we had to do the work to see where are the places that charitable money can be used. And it can be used in ways that really do make a difference in this environment. For instance, if you build senior housing, which is absolutely charitable purpose, what that does in markets like ours, you would know it way better than I, is it tends to move seniors out of what used to be first-time home buyer homes.
Right.
But right now they're not, because the seniors are still in them, because either they don't want to move or whatever. So if you build other places where seniors can live and can live affordably because you've used some of this charitable money, then you've created some flexibility in the market that didn't exist. That's one example.
Yeah, another sector that we need, obviously, with Columbus having the more aging population that they have, demographic has always been, of that age point. And so, what we have seen is that the townhome projects that we've built, and been part of, hoping that would maybe spur on some of that activity and that moving up. But, we really didn't see that. We had a lot of younger families, which was surprising, moving into those townhomes, So, yeah, I think that would be another great project that we need to move towards. So we have some more multifamily projects coming up that I've been speaking with the city on. It's amazing to me to see all of the opportunity, all of the different facets that are out there with regard to real estate. Of course, like I said, that's my passion. That obviously comes through when I'm talking. But this is something else that's near and dear to my heart, growing Columbus. I've always been one to really put my money, my time where my mouth is, and get out there and do things rather than complain about it. I came back to Columbus not really wanting to. So my mom was in bad health, came back here to help with siblings and family. And so I'm interested in other people's why. I think you and Colleen, are you from Columbus?
Yep.
Okay. And I couldn't help but notice, I think there's some experience or background. It looks like you went to school for psychology. Is that right? Okay. So is that your background? I mean, entirely you went to school for?
Well, it is not an inspiring college story, that's for sure. I got to my junior year and decided I better pick a major. And that's what I had the most classes in. So there you go.
This is hilarious, because I was just talking with my sister-in-law about this, and Wendy Jackson, she said, Jesse kind of went to the same direction, like went to the, school finally and said, where am I at with this? What do I do? You can go this way or this way, so that's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I have found that it's a major I've used every day.
Yes.
In one way or another, it has absolutely benefited me. But
read people for sure. Yeah, that's why I wondered. So so good. So you're from here. So you moved away for college probably.
Right.
Came back. Okay. What was the reason for coming back?
Well, it was a job, put simply. I'd worked at the radio station in high school, and then during breaks and such over my college years, and so I was very fortunate that they had a full-time opportunity available at the time that I was graduating. So it was just seamless. I applied other places and would have gone other places, but this one, like I said, it was just seamless, and so it's where I ended up. And certainly have never regretted that. It's been a tremendous set of opportunities for me here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was no grand plan. I can't claim that. It just worked out that way.
It happened exactly the way it was supposed to.
That's
so
right.
You're a volleyball coach.
Yep.
Correct. Okay. Anything else you like to do? What else do you guys do in and around Columbus besides try to build it?
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of time for other things between coaching and work. It is there's a lot of time that gets spent on that. We golf when we can, and just enjoy walking or whatever. But the plate's fairly full between work and coaching, and then just being part of things. Kind of nothing's formal, but just being part of things. You go to a lot of meetings and such,
yep,
and
of course.
have conversations, and that's awesome stuff. I love just being part of that and thinking about how do we grow Columbus from where it is today, not just population wise, but amenities and build the culture and all of that stuff. Yeah.
I look forward to that as well. So definitely love being involved. So for those that want to get involved, Casey, what would your advice be? How do they get started?
Right. I do think in places like Columbus, honestly, it's not hard. You don't have to look very hard to find places where you can make a difference. And we do know, by the way, that that's one of the reasons that Columbus and places like this will continue to grow, because the next generation wants that too. They want to be in a place where they can make a difference, and this is one of those places.
And forcing my daughter to sign up for Youth Columbus. So Youth
Leadership Columbus. It is such a good program. It really is. Yeah, you could go to the chamber, go to your church. In our case, in Columbus, you can go reach out to the Columbus Area Future Fund, and obviously we would love to have other people engaged in that work, either as a committee member or just in a project role, whatever that might be. There's service clubs, there's schools that need volunteers. I mean, there's so many ways to be involved. And at least in most people's experience, once you start, it's just going to keep going.
It is.
You're going to keep getting asked.
Right. So as an employer, I have encouraged the employees here to be involved.
Awesome.
And, we pay them to go to the meetings and be involved because it's just that important, honestly. So nobody else is going to build it. You've got to get out there and get it done. So. And
I think, too, you can make a business case for doing that.
For sure.
That's one of the things culturally that has changed for businesses, I think, in the last 20 years. It isn't as common anymore for businesses to be that supportive and give people the time and whatever. But man, I think you can make a business case that having employees out there, certainly in your industry, just meeting people, creating partnerships, getting your name in front of people. Clearly, there's a business case to be made.
Most definitely. Yeah. We enjoy it. It is definitely part of the culture. So good. All right. Anything else you want to add?
Oh, there's all kinds of things we could add, but we'll save it for the next podcast.
That's right. There you go. And we might have a runner-up here. It sounds like, Matt, for podcast host. So
runner-up. There you go. Second place.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much for being on today, Casey. We appreciate all the information.
Yeah, enjoyed it, Renee.
All righty.